like biting people and shit. He's like, I love dancing.
Oh, he dances also.
All right, let's start.
Should I not say ching? The ching, is that how to start?
Ching? Is that even a racial slur?
I don't know.
It doesn't seem that bad.
It's the sound of coins.
Welcome to the last podcast on the left. Wow, this is now our third episode.
This is the second episode.
This is the third one. The second one hasn't been released.
Yeah.
Or is it the third? Or is it the second?
I don't know.
It's a spooky show and a spooky episode. I am Ben Kissel with my beautiful co-host Marcus Parks. And Marcus and I want to welcome in our newest co-host, the one, the only Henry Zabrowski.
Hey, everybody out there. Radio America. Is that how much of America is listening to this?
Just Radio America.
Yeah,
you nailed it. It was perfect.
Good.
Mostly Wisconsin.
Yeah.
A lot of Wisconsin. So Henry's going to be with us every single week, and it's just going to be the greatest podcast ever to exist in your earphones. Speaking of Wisconsin, today's subject, serial killers.
Yeah.
And God knows the Golden Cheese State has shat out quite a few murderous beasts.
I think it's just the fact that, like, Wisconsin has, like, butter on tap in homes.
Right.
That, like, mostly, I think it's that sort of, like, content. What was it? Who did the Twinkie defense? Who was the guy who did, like, a thing about, like, the Richard Ramirez?
Yeah, Richard
Ramirez was talking
the
about,
Night
like,
Stalker, Richard Ramirez.
He was, like, talking about, like, it was all the sugar in his system. Like, these doctors came out, and, like, that's what they blamed all his heinous multiple murderings on, was, like, the sugar he was consuming.
Hey, it's more fodder for the Bloomberg campaign against obesity.
Absolutely. Thank God. He's just trying to nip serial killers in the bud. He also then should just, like, not allow children to have pets.
That's
or
right.
Outlaw bedwetting. That would be good.
Every serial killer wet their beds and killed their cats. That is an absolute fact.
Serial killers, it's like, that's pretty much like why I even got into horror. Like I was talking about it with my mom. My mom found my files that I used to keep when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah, Detective Henry? What files were you keeping? What kind of people?
In Queens, like around, like, I guess it was like 1994, maybe 1996. There was a string of Zodiac murders that happened in New York that went unsolved. Like, same thing that happened in L.A., where a guy was, like, sending, like, various letters to the Post and, like, a sort of, like, weird, cryptic... I forgot what it was, and I used to clip out all of the articles on him and, like, keep it in a big folder because I was, like, super obsessed with it.
Did this movie end like the end of Secret Window, where you look in the mirror and you realize you are the serial killer? I was the one?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because he seemed like serial killer tendencies.
No,
clipping out all the fucking posters.
That and the Unabomber. Pictures. My mom found my whole collection of my Unabomber, like, sort of memorabilia that I had kept in a thing, because I also printed out his manifesto and, like, kept it, like, in my bag when I was, like, a sixth grader.
That must have been terrifying for your mother to discover.
No, but now look at me.
You're doing fantastic. And it's obvious that you're not a serial killer. What was the manifesto like for, what was that guy's name?
Ted Kaczynski.
Yeah, for Kaczynski.
He was just anti-modern technology. That was, like, his whole thing, is that he wanted everyone to live. He was, like, a primitivist, and he thought that everyone should, live, off the land, and so he was attacking universities, like science universities and airplanes.
It's very ironic that he was so against technology when he was a mathematician.
Yeah, and never killed anyone, right?
No, actually, didn't he killed one?
I think maybe one maimed a few people.
He hurt a lot of people.
Yeah. So I guess technically he's not a serial killer.
No. We should get back to that.
No, but I think that he certainly fits the mental mold of a serial killer. You know, he's obviously psychotic in the brain, and I think a lot of times serial killers have a motivation to better the world, which is very ironic.
They have a lot of them have a sort of, like, it seems like a superiority complex of, like, they're the ones who can choose who live or die because they're trying to sort out the good and the bad.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of superiority complexes, I think Dennis Rader, the BTK killer...
Bind, torture, kill.
Bind, torture, kill. Love all three of those things. It seems to me like he is one of the people who... he definitely thinks he's the best.
Yeah, because you're saying he was like a genuine prick, because he used to work for like zoning like, and city ordinances.
That's right. He worked for
like
El Dorado's. No, that's where he's at. He's at El Dorado Correctional Facility now. No, he worked. Yeah, he worked for Sedgwick County in Wichita, Kansas. He was the guy who would roll around in his pickup truck and measure all of his neighbors' lawns and make sure that they didn't have too many truck tires, in the front porch area, and make sure no cars.
And then
were on
he'd also
blocks.
gain access to your house, because he also like was obsessed with people. Like that's what he would do. You'd use his job to sort of hide his various obsession with his victims that he built over like a long period of time, so that he could kill them at the exact right moment in the most horrifying fashions.
He
without
did, and
anyone knowing.
he definitely killed him in the most horrifying fashions. But yeah, I mean, that's what he would do. He would just like go into people's houses and yell at them for having, lawn equipment, spread all over the backyard or whatever. Apparently, he would actually go with rulers and measure people's grass.
Like the length of the grass from the ground?
Evidently in Wichita, Kansas, mind the fact that everybody is hideously unattractive and the school system is completely flawed. Very concerned about their grass. And so as a city, they couldn't be more than 3 inches.
Yeah.
And the neighbors, I saw an interview with him, one of his neighbors on the biography, and he said his grass was like 0.2 inches above and he got a $200 fine.
Jesus Christ.
So he was a stickler. He was a Nazi in many, many ways.
How many did he end up being convicted for killing?
Let's see. He got 10 consecutive life sentences, it says here.
So was it just for or did they like build up as like assault and murder and all that stuff? Or was it, how many victims was it?
I think that it must have been...
Was it 10?
Victim? It seems to be 10, yeah. It seems to be 10, all women. And no, there is a man in here. One man. So, he doesn't discriminate.
But then he also stopped killing for like 10 years,
well,
right?
He stopped killing for a long time.
Yeah.
And...
they found...
Or two men, I'm sorry.
How was the breakdown? Because in the end, he started taunting the police, right? Like basically saying that you can't catch me, and then sending them... And they tracked them down through evidence, right, of like the recordings he sent them. Am I right? Or am I
I
wrong?
really don't know. I don't know much about BTK.
He got caught because he got cocky and he wanted to get his name back in the papers. So he sent a floppy disk from his church computer that he had made.
That's right.
Because he was also...
like floppy, like 3.5 megabyte.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like back...
He just wanted to show everyone what a fucking great killer genius he was.
He just wanted, credit where credit is due, and he legitimately deserved to people should have been terrified of him, and he's just like, do they know that?
Yeah, they should know that, yeah.
I'm going to let them know again.
This is just also another thing. This is just anyone who would ever listen to this. If you let someone into your house, you are letting a possible maniac at all times.
Absolutely.
Even someone you know very well, even someone you've been doing comedy with for years.
Sure. Even more so then.
You went to college with them. You've been in a sketch comedy group with them for like a really long time.
Sure.
And you just never know that like in their house, like that you never, like let's say you just never ever have a meeting at like my house.
Right.
Like you just never ever once, no one ever comes to my house. You don't know what's in there. And then you let me into your house 4 days a week.
Yeah, I'm not going to let you into my house anymore. I'll tell you that.
I'm just saying that you could.
It's terrifying.
And then I just know so much about your schedule. Like I know when you're alone.
Yeah, absolutely.
You just wonder who you trust. You just wonder.
I don't trust you, and I think that no, it's absolutely correct. You got to be very careful of who you let into your home. And I'm reading here about the BTK victims. 5 out of the 10 were all one family.
God.
Done in one day here. January 15th, 1974.
That's right.
Joseph Otero, Julie, Joseph Otero Jr., and Josephine Otero. I will say not the most clever
names. Those are not creative people.
Joseph Otero did seem like kind of a sociopath himself by naming his son Joseph and his daughter Josephine.
It was that's George Foreman style right there.
Yeah, it's very Foreman style. I might as well just name him 1, 2, and 3. But yeah, so it cause of death here. He's over. I assume he just breaks into the home. He suffocated the father, Joseph, strangled Julie Otero, his wife. I'm not sure what the difference is there, suffocated or strangled.
Oh, no, that's a huge difference. Like, strangled is never, you put your arm or your hands around the throat.
Or a belt or something like that.
Yeah, or something like that. Suffocated like a pillow. Yeah, a pillow over the face.
So if you're going to be suffocated or strangled, I guess you would go suffocation. It would be slightly less painless.
Yeah,
it would be
straight up for just still being alive.
Yeah. Well, yes. Of course, you want to go with alive. That's interesting, though, because he suffocated the husband, strangled the wife, suffocated the son. I would assume the strangulation also had to do with the fact that he was, with a rope he strangled her. He was probably also having sex with her at the time.
Yeah. Isn't it funny? Because, that's very strange. There's also, the Boston Strangler, like Tom DeSalvo.
Yeah.
Who kind of did the same exact thing. I just wonder what his motivation was. Was it sex or was it just power? Like a lot of serial killers come out of sex.
Yeah.
I do feel like, that's one and the same in a lot of ways. I was having sex with my girlfriend today, did a little choke, and why not?
Yeah, sure.
Just have fun. It helps you come a little bit.
You see, Tom DeSalvo, apparently, according to, he married this a woman in need of a green card through a newspaper. He married this woman from Russia. And basically, she was saying that he was a complete and total sex maniac. He wanted to have sex 10, 12 times a day.
Ooh,
and she wouldn't do it, and so that he started taking his own hands and basically started putting it on other people. And he was the guy in Boston.
So he started taking his own hands. What was he doing with his hands?
Well, he used to dress up as a delivery man and basically sort of scout out old ladies and then show up at their house, strong arm his way into the apartment, rape them, and then strangle them with their pantyhose. And that was kind of his thing. And that what he used to do, his calling card over time was he used to pose the bodies in fun little positions, sitting in a chair. He'd put them sitting in a chair and then take the pantyhose that he's strangling with him and tie them in a big fancy bow around their neck.
Oh my God.
Absolutely terrifying.
Right? That is just
good for him.
I'm a creative person too.
If you're going to strangle somebody, you might as well use their own pantyhose. Yeah, and then so BTK, what did he do with Josephine Otero? He hanged her from a drainage pipe. So he really...
basement? Drainage
pipe? It must be from a basement, or, maybe his main living room there. I have no idea. So he basically busted into a home, killed the father by suffocating him, strangled the wife, suffocated the son, and then hung the daughter from a drainage pipe. And then I guess you just leave after that and order pizza?
Really? He went to go work. Wasn't he a treasurer at his Lutheran church too?
He was very, very important in his church. That was what ended up being his downfall, because he sent that tape and they were able to get this floppy disk from his church.
I'm glad they got that cruel fucker. Good.
Well,
good work.
Absolutely.
That's good, just straight up police work. Especially when you go, it's just that taunting thing. That's what happened with Zodiac Killer, Son of Sam was also super interesting. It's my mom grew up in Queens when he went on his spree.
Oh, yeah.
And that was the thing, in the 70s, when that happened, the police sort of built this whole, Son of Sam is gunning for specific people, which is.
Yeah, was it blondes or brunettes?
Brunettes. That was my mom at the time.
Well, apparently blondes do have more fun.
Yeah, because they were, not
being murdered.
Variously murdered by the Son of Sam. And it's my mom used to have to get escorted home from work. Guys would walk her from the work to the subway station and follow her and make sure nothing happened to her, because it was all happening in Queens too.
And how long was the Son of Sam out there killing for? Was it just
it was a summer? Yeah,
it was a summer
of '77.
He was he did it all over a short period of time and then got caught pretty quick.
He got caught parking tickets.
Is that what it was?
That's how he got caught, parking tickets.
Now, so what he got another parking ticket and they confronted him and you have all these back parking tickets and they brought him down to the station?
No, I think they looked in his car and saw the gun. I think it's something like that.
Yeah,
it was just something.
That's one nice thing about the BTK killer, I feel like he put a little bit of work in, and like the fellow you were talking about earlier with the stockings, strangulation is much, much harder to do than the gunshot to the head. Son of Sam was kind of lazy to some degree.
Well, because again, it's all about it's all about power. It's all about someone who feels like a nobody, who, like, I guess you could say maybe slipped through the cracks of the system or like various shit. Where, like, I don't even know if that's true, but they feel disenfranchised in a way for one thing or another, and they decide to like make themselves a fucking superstar.
And he was a superstar. Yeah,
that's how you do it in their mind. I just don't know.
But
how
some people just kill for the love of killing. Like, I mean, we were talking about this guy earlier, H.H. Holmes, America's first serial killer who killed purely for the love of killing.
Just to show how good he could be at it.
Yeah, I mean, and he was amazing at it. But I think also, what's that stat? The stat about 76% of serial killers are from America, which I think is pretty interesting. And I think it also goes into that mentality of, like, trying to be a superstar. This is really the only... Snooki is a superstar now for being an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Paris Hilton's a superstar just for being a rich alcoholic.
It's almost like reality television. Maybe it's putting a sort of cure on serial killers of really getting those real depraved fuckers, attention that they want by just being on television instead of murdering people. And then there was that reality star, that guy who went on a killing spree, killed his girlfriend.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know enough about that story, but there was a reality star. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I wonder if Mike, the Situation Sorrentino, would have been a serial killer had he not gotten Jersey Shore. And now he has the acclaim that he needs, and he's like, well, thank God I didn't have to murder all those people to get my name out.
How many people were saved?
I mean, I think that it's the same thing with me. I mean, I always thought, well, the quickest way to make the paper is you got to kill somebody.
I mean, but
you're immediately a star.
But now we're comedians because we understand the redemptive power of laughter.
Well, thankfully, we can speak into microphones and not be concerned with the fact that people don't give a shit about what we're saying.
Yeah.
Because we care, and that's all that matters.
H.H. Holmes, I want to go back. Like, H.H. Holmes was kind of insane and amazing. Like, he goes all the...
Well, to give a little bit of background information on H.H.
I don't know much about H.H. Holmes.
They consider him to be America's first serial killer. Possibly, I mean, he was maybe the first one that they, caught, I guess, and really got
named as serial killer.
Yeah, that they named. This guy was active mostly during the Chicago World's Fair in the late 1800s, and he was
how much scarier is the concept of a serial killer in the 1800s?
Yeah.
Like Jack the Ripper, at a fair.
like what's supposed to be the happy, like I read this book, The Devil in the White City.
Yeah.
Like talking about like how the Chicago World's Fair was just like this considered to be this accomplishment for Americans in general. Like we're going against the Eiffel Tower here. Like that's no shit. Like they're like, how can we beat the Eiffel Tower? And they built the Ferris wheel.
That's right.
That was America's response to the Eiffel Tower.
And now we all know that Ferris wheels are gay and stupid.
Yeah, and they also breed serial killers, apparently.
And H.H. Holmes was, he was sort of like a reverse Black Widow type character.
Yeah.
He would marry a woman and then be like, tell the family, like, because, this is old America where people are, scattered all over the place.
Right.
Yeah.
And so he figures out this perfect plan, like he builds a hotel. And in the Chicago World's Fair, you had young girls from all over the country coming to Chicago to try to, like, they're going to the big city, like they're going to get a job.
Make it big time.
They're going to get a job as a reception, like they're just going to get jobs.
I'll be a tailor and a soap maker.
Yeah, exactly.
And they would come and stay at H.H.'s hotel, and they would just disappear. And no one would know why, no one would know how.
Yeah, because he would have architects build wings onto his house, kill the architect, hire new architects to build other corresponding wings on the house that all don't match up.
Really?
Yeah.
And so that no one knew the full layout of his mansion of murder until afterwards.
So, like, he had a kill room, he had a disposal room, like he had a
crematorium in the basement.
Yeah.
It sounds a lot like Michael Jackson's Neverland.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah,
that is
without all
awesome.
the shag carpet and the cougars running around.
Yeah,
like
that's
the various
true.
sort of like monkeys that he had.
Yeah. No elephants or giraffes.
And they caught him when he started. He killed he killed a couple children, and that's how.
So he started with women that he would marry, and then he worked his way down to children.
But didn't he also he killed a bunch of all different types of people.
Yeah, like he killed whoever was convenient. Like whoever he saw is like, I can kill that person and get away with it, he would kill them. It's not known exactly how many people he killed, but it was dozens.
And this is also just comes down to, all right, so you got kind of like this idea of like, no one knows who the serial killer is because you're like, they're supposed to be sort of innocuous person, but I just love the idea of like H.H. Holmes, like, because he was supposed to be this sort of charismatic, like, charmer.
He was the Ted Bundy of the 18th century.
I imagine,
or 19th century.
But in 1880s, that has to be like a whole different context. I imagine, like,
what do you have to do to like charm women in the 1880s?
It was just you running around going like, "Good day, ladies," like knocking drinks out of people's hands, like spinning his like cane like wildly all over the place, like
flipping a coin. Yeah,
it's like he's charming and dashing.
Absolutely,
him being a fucking complete total maniac.
Yeah, a top hat and an ascot. You're gonna get any gal in town.
Just like biting people and shit. He's like, I love dancing.
Oh, he dances also,
and he was also a deadbeat too. He would accrue debts and just kind of pass them off to other people. And he was like very much like he could charm people. He could charm women into marrying him, going home with him. He could charm people into giving him loans, into giving him
had
businesses.
A lot of money then at some point.
Yeah, I mean, he was able to accrue money without ever really paying any of it back. And he would just completely fuck people over. I mean, he was truly a monster without a soul in every way.
Yeah.
Like they said, it was looking, and whenever you looked into his eyes, it was looking to the eyes of the devil.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Which is super interesting. Kind of like, so let's kind of bridge into horror movies, like talk about Ed Gein. That reminds me of like, because apparently the sheriff, we'll go into what Ed Gein did. It's like the sheriff who arrested Ed Gein apparently had a heart attack 10 months after it, and they basically said that after he investigated his crimes, he was never the same, and went into a despair and essentially just like died. It was like another victim of Ed Gein.
Well, let's let everyone know who Ed Gein is.
Yeah, Ed Gein is from Plainfield, Wisconsin. He's a successful young man.
Hometown boy. Hometown boy made good.
Him and Jeffrey Dahmer, two of Wisconsin's finest killers. He killed 2 people only, which I think is very interesting. But it's what he did. It's like everything else that made him be canonical, like the most insane serial killer of all time. Yeah, I mean, I think he's mostly notorious for being a grave robber.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he also, he wore his mother's skin as a suit and all that crazy shit.
So hence, that's who they based Leatherface off of.
Yeah,
with
Leatherface, Psycho.
Although this hotel thing with Psycho, I feel like it might be a little bit more HH.
That seems a little bit, but it's all just him dressing up his mother, wanting to be his mother. Because I was like talking about, it's like he lived alone with his mother after everyone died, and basically, like everyone in his family died. He lived alone with his mother. He was like a very strange kid growing up, and they were like talking sort of like he would kind of sit by himself and like like laugh to himself.
Right. I mean, he was hilarious.
He was really he must have been such a cut up. He then I guess then when she died, he walled up every room in the house that that his mother used to use, and he just lived in a tiny room next to the kitchen with his mother's dead body, and eventually carved her up into a suit because he secretly wanted to be a woman. That was like part of his thing, and so what he would do is
that seems to be pretty common. A lot of sexual confusion in these serial killers.
Yeah, sex and serial killing are inextricably linked.
Yeah, because
I know that was the thing with John Wayne Gacy. He was a homosexual, and he always felt very bad about it. And I watched a documentary on him, and the narrator wanted to make it seem like homophobia was the reason.
It's like, no,
why he killed children? What?
He killed young men who wouldn't blow him.
Or they would blow him, and then he would be so incensed that they blew him that he'd killed him.
Yeah, so it's much like how H.H. would kill the people who came into his house and helped him make the rooms. You got to kill him. I mean, anyone with evidence.
He did that. Yeah, he did that just to cover his tracks.
It's just losers.
Brilliant man.
It's losers with a very heavy deviant streak that have secrets that they consider so deep and so private and so dark
and
that they will do anything to cover it up.
Yeah. I mean, murder is a good secret to keep covered up.
Yeah.
Homosexuality, let people know.
They just don't understand that. They did not. They got, like, John Wayne Gacy, I guess, just hated being a homosexual so hard that his personality just, I guess, just splits in half.
Yeah.
It allows you to just go and just be a monster.
Absolutely.
And that's what Ed Gein did. Like, living privately in the house. What was it?
So
what did the list of the shit he made? Out of debt, he would dig up corpses that were all basically the same size and shape of his mother.
So, is that what it was? And then he would did he ever try to, like, recreate his mother?
Well, yeah, that's how he built the suit out of. Like, parts of her, once that all rotted away, he would dig out the grave and add shit to the...
When authorities searched the house, they found...
Yeah, it's nuts.
4 noses. So
1, 2, 3, 4 noses.
Whole human bones and fragments, 9 masks of human skin.
Wow, masks.
That is pretty awesome.
Oh, but that's the thing. There were just faces, though. That's the thing. They're only masks in context.
And I think, as far as serial killers go, Ed Gein was relatively peaceful and nice. I don't even know, 2 kills? Is that technically serial?
I think. I mean, it just gets to the end. It's like. Just let's give it to him. Let's give it to him.
But I feel like he's more of he's
my favorite one,
the creepiest person alive.
Yeah.
He also had bowls made from human skulls, which makes sense.
Yeah, that's a normal shape for that.
The skull is a perfect bowl.
I always wanted one as an ashtray. Human skull as an ashtray.
He was a little bit healthier than you.
Yeah, that's different. I'm a smoker. Yeah,
that's right.
Just make a call to China. They can make that happen.
They also found 10 female heads with the tops sawn off.
All right. Playing with their brains. That's fine.
Where's he going to get the bowls?
Exactly. He must. That's correct. Human skin covering several chair seats, which, we use cow skin all the time.
Wouldn't it be fun if they were Asian and you could be like, I hope you like my fine china. I just made a funny. I just made a funny joke there, remember?
I would imagine that is kind of Ed Gein.
Oh, you're dead? You've been dead for days and you're in my living room? I'm enjoying myself.
Ed Gein's Comedy Club. It's just a little sign he made out of bones.
Yeah, just like, come on down, hey guys. You want me to see my impression? This is me as my mother.
Dead.
She's dead. She's completely, totally dead.
What would a serial killer name their own comedy club?
You call it the Yuckle Hut. Yeah, you like
Headbusters, Blundrainers, what? Poop makers. Mary Hogan's head in a
That's
paper
the name
bag.
of the one of the people he officially killed.
Yes,
who worked at the hardware store that he would get his shit, all his tanning gear from, to make his skin stuff.
I feel like that's the first crime. All these other if you dig up dead bodies and use their bones for furniture, shouldn't you be praised for creativity? It's a craft, it's a skill.
I don't know.
What's so wrong with it? People always overreact when it comes to the bodies. Like 9/11, they have to stop working on the World Trade Center site every 3 days, every time they find a fragment of somebody's shoulder bone.
What's because
it's like, get over it.
It's the thing is,
I'm just saying, if I am dead, use my body to make a nice piece of furniture.
Well, that's just but you could put that in your will, and that's fine. That's the thing, that those people did not do that.
Yeah, it's not allowed.
But they're dead. They don't know.
Yeah. You cannot legally stuff a human. I have a friend who's a taxidermist.
A friend.
He's a taxidermist, and he says he gets at least 2 calls a year from an old woman wanting to stuff her dead husband.
Why can't you do it?
I don't know. It's not allowed. You cannot legally stuff a human being.
We got to figure out some petition. We got to get over there, talk to our assemblymen and aldermen, and make it legal to start stuffing these dead bodies.
Yeah.
It's reuse, reduce, recycle.
Yeah, sure.
And that's what it's all about. I want a big stuffed Ben Kissel when I die in your apartment.
I'd have it, yeah. I'd put clothes over it.
Yeah, put clothes over
all
it.
my dirty laundry.
You can have my hand palm up, and you can have your business cards in there. Grab them as they leave.
Bowl of candy.
Yeah,
that'd be a lot of fun.
They also found Bernice Warden's head in a burlap sack.
That's the other girl. That's the other person he killed.
So he just loved these people's heads.
Bernice.
Yeah. They both worked at this convenience store, apparently. And, oh my goodness, This is kind of an interesting one.
This is my favorite one.
They found 9 vulvas in a shoebox.
9 vulvas in a shoebox, which is a good Tori Amos album title.
Pussies in a shoebox. Skulls on the bedpost, organs in the refrigerator, a pair of lips on a drawstring for his window shade. Oh! This house is amazing. I wish he was my uncle. I mean, I just want to go there so bad. Pull on the lips, let the sunlight in. Let your daddy pull on the lips.
Yeah, let him kissy. Oh, they get a little kissy.
Oh my God. I think that this is probably the best one yet. Well, first, it's a lampshade made of human skin. We know that. Or made from a human face. So that's pretty cool.
That's good. That's specific.
And then my personal favorite, a belt made from human female nipples.
Yeah, I've heard about the nipple belt. That's great.
The nipple belt. I mean, how does that even work? How do you sew it all together? Does it...
Patience, time, love.
I wonder if he lost a little bit of weight. He's like, oh my God, I'm a 34. I'm fitting into 18 nipples now? 18 nipples on my belt? Start laying off all the human flesh.
Just add another nipple to one end of the belt.
I mean, it's a constant extender belt. It's perfect.
What made him think a belt?
Well, nipples are the perfect size to put on belt.
No.
Yeah.
No, they are good.
Like, you have those belts that have the metal studs on them.
Right. That's what I was thinking.
Same concept. Exact same concept.
I'd use the intestines as a little belt.
Yeah. Lazy. Yeah. You're lazy, buddy. You gotta sew it.
He used the... See, I don't think... Did he, make the belt specifically from nipples, or did he use them as decoration on, a leather belt? Because I imagine decoration really on a leather belt.
I don't think.
Yeah, it doesn't say, but if the belt is only nipples, I mean, it's just a testament to the strength of human flesh.
You know those doilies that you can, those, circle things that you can put under teapots? Of course. It's like that. See, I would have just made a doily.
Well, you would have made a doily. That would be fantastic, but your pants would be falling down all over town. And
no, then I'd be using the intestines as a rope belt.
I don't know. That's lazy. I mean, that's why Ed Gein
I made a whole fucking doily out of human nipples.
Yeah, that's true. Or just one. Depending on who you kill, those gals in Wisconsin get some pretty
fat chicks. Yikes.
Yeah, get some big areolas.
But the movie... Psycho is kind of loosely based. Texas Chainsaw is kind of loosely based. There's a movie called Deranged that is really heavily based in his life. And the best part about that movie is that they kind of, because he came from a super, super religious family where his mother taught him that every other woman was a prostitute that should be murdered and very sort of would read him help.
Behind every good man is a woman. Behind every psycho killer is a terrible mother.
A big mother who tells you you're not worth anything and essentially have a sort of ancestral relationship. She dressed up as a little girl and all that shit. But the movie Deranged is amazing because whenever Ed Gein's about to do something particularly kooky, he does this church music starts playing, this really quiet sort of organ music begins playing. You kind of see the look on his face and going and it's really fucking good. And they did a good casting for Ed Gein because he's a sort of 60-year-old man who's just really just...
He was a tiny guy.
Yeah, I mean, he just lived with his mother the whole time. And
he was old and feeble, and I'll tell you, those hills of Wisconsin, much like Texas, you can just really get lost out there.
Yeah.
And nobody knows who you are. You just know Ed lives there.
That was the thing. You were counting in the other episode about growing up in Texas. I just didn't realize, what a fucking ground for horror movies.
Oh, it was perfect. There's so many places, so many locations where a horror movie would just look amazing.
South is perfect for it.
The South is nice, and I think, Wisconsin has more serial killers, but nobody wants to shoot in Wisconsin.
But at the same time, really,
Texas does not have... I can't even really think of one serial killer.
But that's why they take the movies out of Wisconsin. They take the stories out of Wisconsin and put them in Texas because Texas looks apart.
Yeah, it looks much better.
But last time I went to Wisconsin, you could just totally fucking see it with cornfields and various pastures,
there was
big open space, super cold. So people are kind of isolated a lot of the times.
I think isolation and religion.
Well, there was one murder, one actually really gruesome murder in the town where my parents live now. These 3 men killed a woman and dumped her body down one of those wells, like those abandoned wells, out in the middle of nowhere, like where all of these houses that because there are all these old. It's like frontier, so
it's a lot like
there are a ton of abandoned houses, abandoned wells, and these three guys killed this woman and dumped her down there. And this happened like 15 years ago. And one of the guys, in order to escape a different conviction, rolled over on the other two guys, and that's how they found her. Otherwise, they never it would have been a cold case. They never ever would have found this woman.
So Wisconsin has Ed Gein and Jeffrey Dahmer. Who does Texas have as their biggest number one guy?
Dude, we don't really have anybody.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Anybody?
Like we don't as far as like big serial killers go. Like there are small. Like we don't have any famous ones. There's small ones. There was a guy in Lubbock whenever I was in college that killed hookers and put them in like suitcases,
hat boxes.
Like he'd put them in suitcases and like throw them out in the dump.
I mean, that's the difference. That guy is not famous because if he was famous, he would have made them into suitcases.
Yeah, they just like they don't.
Like, you just like roll out of the place with a little eyeball.
You gotta have a gimmick.
I know. Like there's a lot of guys. There's just no like really gimmicky. Like there's no guys with a hook. I mean that's exactly.
It's
what
like pop songs.
Absolutely. And of course, Henry, you're from Florida, so you guys, and you went to FSU.
Yeah.
So you, of course, you have the wonderful Teddy Bundy.
Well, the best part about the FSU section of the Teddy Bundy story is that, like, it was talk about like the same thing kind of with Dahmer and like various people where, like, Ted Bundy was a very cautious guy who kind of like built a whole sort of he would charm people into like getting like into a loan with the car with him, and he'd murder them and various things. But so he broke out of a jail in Colorado, like which where he was.
So he was arrested before.
He was arrested for his crimes in Denver. He broke out of jail, drove to Florida to get away from the authorities. Got into Florida with nowhere to go.
And what a place to retire to if you're a serial killer.
You know, just go to the warm, sunny beaches. But he went on, like serial killers, towards their end of their sort of like tenure, he just went into fucking berserker mode.
Because he felt like the cops were hot on his trail?
So he just went on a very, very, much more brutal than all his previous crimes. He went from sorority house to sorority house through this ravine that runs through FSU, like the back of all these various sorority houses, and like he bit that one girl's like nipple off. He went on this horrible crime spree where he killed those girls, and then it's eventually where he was caught in Tallahassee and put to death in Florida. And he but that whole, there's a Bundy Trail that it's called, which is literally this super desolate ravine thing that runs behind all the sororities that it technically is gated off. Like you're not even supposed to go back there anymore, but like the thing was to get super drunk, and like sorority girls used to do it as a hazing thing too, where they would like walk the ravine and like do like kind of follow the steps of Ted Bundy. But if you want to get kicked out of a sorority house faster than possible, just mention him.
And you're just out of there. It's been stricken like from their histories and stuff like that. Like, I mean, absolutely.
Talk about it.
He is the boogeyman of every sorority house. I'm reading here about where he escaped. He escaped from Pitkin County.
Super smart, because that was where he learned all his he learned how to defend himself. And
exactly.
He was getting a law degree.
He defended himself, and he escaped. For 2 days, he was on the run, hiding in a hunting cabin, and then he went south, and he went to a place called Crested Butt, which is a funny name. Gotta go to Crested Butt. Ended up stealing a car.
Is that a buffet place?
I have no
Is that
idea.
a town or a restaurant?
Yeah, there's Ed Gein's buffet place. Nothing but nipples and ears. So he's on the lam for 6 days.
You could just nibble on them. It's yummy, yum.
This nipple is overcooked. I'm never coming back here. Yeah, then he went to Ann Arbor, Michigan. Finally, he ended up in Florida. And, my goodness. Yeah, that sounds... The Chi Omega Sorority House.
Chi Omega.
Oh, is that what it's called? Chi Omega. Chi Omega. Oh, my goodness. He killed 30 people. And the first one he killed in Florida, Margaret Bowman, as she slept in her bed.
Yeah.
And then Lisa Levy.
Same thing with Night Stalkers. Same thing. What Night Stalker used to do was break into people's houses and sit in the corner of their houses until they went to sleep. And then kill them after they went to sleep, or rape them and kill them.
I mean,
just don't go to sleep.
Don't go to sleep ever. I mean, it's a real Freddy Krueger situation.
Don't let your guard down pretty much ever. I
had a picture of Ted Bundy after the execution. I was in a weekly. I used to love the Weekly World News.
Yeah,
and
so
just
good.
read it all the time.
Did Ted Bundy look like Bat Boy?
No, he was. It was after he had gotten, right after he had died from the electric chair.
Okay,
and it was a picture of just his head and these stitches. Like they had shaved his head, like no hair, and these stitches on the side, like on his temples, from where like the electrodes were.
So they
it was like the face of a monster. Yeah, and I thought that was the coolest fucking picture ever. Cut it out, put it on the wall.
God, you see, that just sounds like all of 4chan now. I feel like that's the one thing where, like, about the internet that's kind of good about how deplorable the internet is like 4chan being like sort of anonymous.
Well,
like
what's 4chan?
It is the subconscious of the internet. It's like a bulletin board website that people can go on. You can.
I used to spend a lot of time on 4chan. That's until a bunch of pussies moved in, and it got to be about causes.
Yeah,
like, we're gonna do some good. It's like, no, this thing is about gore and awful things, and that's about nihilism and not giving a shit about anything.
But the thing is, I think that it really allows. I think it is actually a very appropriate output place for people that would normally put their horror on other humans.
Yeah.
That you can just like
Without
put your shit into the internet and like you'll see it and it'll ruin your night. The various things, like you go on the random section and it'll be like one will be like a hot girl and that's fine, and the next
just
thing will
sleep.
be like another thing will be just like a dude's fucking hand in a shredder and various garbage.
Mm-hmm.
But it's good. It gets it other systems.
Oh, it sounds
that
beautiful.
And violent video games, I think, really do get. And horror movies. I think all these things that we enjoy,
they're cathartic.
They're cathartic. It helps us to kind of get rid of that bloodlust that some of us have.
I like horror movies because to me it's so outside of my world. Like, especially like being a comedian and doing comedy all the time, where it's like it's true escapism for me because I know it's not real. Number one.
Well, I mean, it's the same thing as comedy as well. It's like and I think that horror gets the bad rap where everyone's just like, oh, they see people killing, they're going to do it.
It's like,
but it's like people who enjoy comedy, like that film with Belushi, Animal House, have never gone up to somebody playing guitar, grabbed that guitar and smashed it against a wall.
I'm not going to say that though.
No,
I think it probably happened one time at least.
I think it's
somebody
happened
did it
dozens of times.
But like horror, I watch horror constantly. I try to watch as much horror as I can, and I would never murder someone. I would never do it in 1,000 years. I'm a gentle, kind.
You're a nice man.
Fat-faced little comedian.
Absolutely. You're the John Wayne Gacy of comedy.
Yeah.
You're a beautiful man, and that's going to have to wrap up this episode. Thank you so much for listening to the last podcast. On the left, Holy Lordy will be here next week discussing another amazing topic. For Marcus Parks, Henry Zabrowski, I'm Ben Gizzle.
Oh, wait, you want to do a plug for Big Fat Scary? April 21st, midnight, we're doing Human Centipede.
Nice. Yes. So do that, come out to that, and we will talk to you soon.
And I also want to give a shout out to our first big fan, Ron Purdy. Ron, thanks for listening.
That's right, Ron. Thank you, buddy. It's going to keep on being amazing. Talk to you later.